My mom left for a 3-day work trip just like she'd done a dozen times before. Nothing ever felt unusual about it. She packed her things in the evening, kissed us both goodbye, and reminded Dad to water the plants and feed the cat. The same reminders every time. But something was different that night. My dad watched her leave from the front door, waving a little too long after her car disappeared. Then he stood still, in silence, for several minutes. That was the first time I felt something shift. The next morning, he was up early. I heard music coming from the kitchen. Jazz, not his usual stuff. He made pancakes. He hadn't made pancakes in months. I asked if something was up. He just smiled and said he felt like switching things up. Later that day, he showered, shaved, and changed into a new shirt, one I didn't even know he owned. I asked if he had a meeting. He said no, just wanted to look good. That's when I started paying attention. That afternoon, while I was passing by the living room, I saw him texting someone. He tilted his phone away when I walked in. Then he locked the screen. He never does that. The screen lit up once with a message. I'm free after 6. I didn't catch the name. He tapped it quickly, smiled, and turned the screen face down. Later that evening, there was a knock at the door. It was Lisa, our next-door neighbor. She brought over a pie. That wasn't unusual. She baked a lot, but she lingered longer than usual. They stood there talking, laughing. Her hand brushed his shoulder once. I noticed. So did he, because he glanced toward me quickly. That smile dropped fast. When he thought I wasn't looking, I saw him pour 2 glasses of wine and take them. Downstairs. He never drinks alone and never wine. I thought maybe I was imagining things, that I was reading into nothing. But that night, around 11 p.m., I heard footsteps and soft voices below. My room was dark, and I could hear someone laugh, a woman's voice. I crept out of bed, leaned down the stairs, and listened. I heard my dad whisper, "She'll never," and no. Then more laughter. I didn't sleep that night. The next evening, I waited. I didn't ask questions or act suspicious. I just watched. At around 7:30, Lisa showed up again. No pie this time, just her, wearing something a little too dressy for a casual visit. They didn't sit in the living room. They went straight to the kitchen. I sat upstairs and listened. Laughter, low voices, glass clinking. I waited until it got quiet and then came downstairs for water. They were at the table, 2 wine glasses, one half full, a bottle open. My dad looked surprised to see me. Lisa smiled too wide. He said she was helping him with something for the backyard. At night, with wine? I nodded and left the room, but I didn't believe him. Lisa didn't stay much longer. She left a few minutes after I went upstairs, but I heard the door close and the sound of my dad sighing. A long, tired sigh. The next morning, when I came down for breakfast, he was already up. Different shirt, same jeans. But something was off. There was a lipstick mark on his coffee mug. I mentioned it casually. He didn't look up, said it must have been Mom's from the day before. I knew he was lying. I knew because Mom never drinks coffee from mugs. She uses a travel cup. I didn't argue. I just waited. That afternoon, I told Jake, my best friend. He laughed at first, but when I laid it all out, he said one thing that stuck. If you want to know what's going on, get proof. So I did. That night before dinner, I left my phone on top of the kitchen cabinet with the voice recorder running. It was high up and out of sight. I made sure it was fully charged and recording. Dad didn't know. Neither did Lisa when she showed up again, this time staying even later. I stayed in my room, pretending to be asleep. Around midnight, I crept downstairs and grabbed my phone. The next day at school, I sat in the back of class with headphones, in and played it back. At first, it was just small talk, then laughter, then Lisa's voice. So, you still haven't told her? And Dad's voice, low but clear. Not yet, but I will. My stomach dropped. Lisa whispered something I couldn't catch, then there was silence, until I heard the sound of lips meeting. I replayed the recording at least 5 times. Each time it hit harder. That one sentence, "You still haven't told her," kept echoing in my head. It wasn't even the kiss that broke me. It was how calm he sounded, like none of this meant anything, like betrayal came easy to him. I didn't know what to do with that. I didn't know who to tell. At home, he acted normal, smiling, cooking dinner, asking me about school. I could barely look at him. Every word he spoke sounded fake. I kept thinking about Mom, about how she always trusted him without question. I hated that I now knew something she didn't. I hated that it had to be me. That night, I sat across from him at dinner, watching. He didn't touch his food much. He kept checking his phone, probably waiting for Lisa to text. I wanted to scream, but I stayed silent. I needed more proof, more clarity, because there was still a part of me that hoped I was wrong. Folie. Next evening, I followed him. When he left the house saying he was running to the store, I waited 5 minutes, then grabbed my bike and tailed him from a distance. He didn't go to any store. He drove 2 blocks down and parked outside Lisa's house. I waited in the dark. 10 minutes passed, then 20. Then the front door opened and they both stepped out. They didn't kiss. They didn't even hold hands, but they looked serious, focused. They got in his car and left. I didn't follow them. I went home, sat in my room, and tried to piece everything together. He was definitely hiding something, and Lisa was part of it. But it wasn't adding up. If it was an affair, why meet in public? Why act so composed? The next morning, he was gone before I woke up. His car wasn't in the driveway. I checked his closet. Half his clothes were missing. I walked through the kitchen and saw a note on the table. Just a single line, "You'll understand soon." That was it. No explanation, no timeline, no answers, just silence. And for the first time, I didn't feel angry. I felt scared. Because now I wasn't sure if I was uncovering an affair or if something much bigger was happening. The day Mom returned, I was ready to destroy everything. I had the recording saved, screenshots of texts he tried to delete, and every strange detail memorized. I was going to tell her the moment she walked in, but when I saw her face, something stopped me. She looked happy, tired, but happy. She asked how everything went. I forced a smile. My heart was thudding so hard it was hard to breathe. She noticed I looked off but didn't push it. Around noon, a message popped up on her phone. I saw the name, Ethan, my dad. Just one line. "Be ready at 4. She smiled and told me to dress nicely. I asked why. She just said, "You'll see." I didn't trust it. I thought maybe he'd turned everything into some elaborate cover. I kept expecting Lisa to appear behind a curtain and Mom to crumble in front of me. At 4 p.m., a car pulled up. My dad stepped out, in a clean suit, holding flowers, no Lisa in sight, just him. He walked to the door like nothing had happened. Mom smiled like she was falling in love all over again. He hugged her tightly, then looked at me and said, "Come on, you're part of this too." I didn't move at first. I didn't understand. Then we drove, quietly, for about 15 minutes. When we arrived, I saw decorations, lights, a setup like a wedding ceremony. Then I saw Lisa. She was arranging flowers. There was a camera guy, 2 people tuning music, someone holding a clipboard. Dad turned to Mom and handed her a small box. Inside was a ring, a new one. And suddenly, everything made sense. He wasn't cheating. He was planning a vow renewal. The whispering, the meetings, the wine, the secrecy. Every bit of it was part of the surprise. Lisa wasn't a lover. She was the planner. The kiss I heard? Just a peck on the cheek during rehearsal. The "she doesn't know" line? About the surprise, not about Mom. I didn't know what to say. I'd spent days convinced my dad was the villain, and the whole time, he was creating something beautiful. When the ceremony started, I stood there numb. And when they said their vows again, I felt every ounce of guilt crash into me. I had doubted him. I had believed the worst. But what I really discovered was how far love will go to stay alive, even if it looks like betrayal from the outside.